Welcome to the next segment of the show. We have Martin Roberts. We have a new survey out. We're looking at this survey and a new app which is helping to home purchasers and the ins and outs of buying property in the UK. Welcome, Martin Roberts, to the show.
Oh, it's very nice to be here, Dan.
Oh, I love your enthusiasm already. Great. And everywhere I go, I'm seeing sold on all these house posts, where people like are selling. Has something caused this massive spike?
So it's a combination of things, isn't it? I think it's, lockdown made a lot of people think about making their dreams come true. You can spend a lot of time contemplating about how we put things off, don't we? And when that happened, I think the psychology was you never know what's around the corner and you can't guarantee anything anymore. So let's do what we always planned. So let's move to the country. Let's move to a bigger house. Let's downsize, whatever it might be. Let's move to the city. Let's move out of the city. So I think it's people who've made those kind of decisions. Combined with the need for more outdoor space, a change in our lifestyles in terms of working from home. So maybe having to, that the house we've got doesn't necessarily, fit the bill anymore. And then you also have this incentives that were introduced, like the stamp duty. But, a lot of people sort of saying, well, what happened was the stamp duty, threshold limits have gone back to as they were. And, I just think the demand for housing is not going to go away, and this isn't just a quick blip up. I think it's just an indication that the old basics of we don't have enough houses in this country for people who need them.
And when I'm looking at price comparisons of houses which were sold, like say 20 years ago, to properties being selling now, there's a considerable difference. They've had a good investment over the years to sell now.
I mean, if you look back over since they started doing official records of house prices, they've doubled every 10 years. So, and even if you'd bought at the height of the last sort of crash, and a lot of people obviously worried about, what house is going to go down and it stops them doing stuff. But even if you'd bought at the height of the last, property price thing just before the 2007, 2008 crash, you'd still be sitting on a profit now, apart from in a few very rare cases in the country. And even there, I think you'd be hard to find a house now that costs less than it did in 2007, 2008. So we have seen it as two things. One, the house is something we need to live in, and then you can potentially take that next step, which is say, well, a house is actually something that can actually provide me with income. But I think on the first one, one of the things that I think is a really interesting idea, which has just been introduced, is this nationwide conjunction with Alexa's produces a thing called Local Voices. It's a pilot program which is just happening in Bristol to start off with, but hopefully it's going to roll out around the country. And it's where you get local people to actually tell you about the place. So if you want to know what the schools are like, or if you want to know what the best shops are, or the best places to do kebabs late at night, what the neighbours are like, then you can actually ask local people who pre-recorded their answers to those kind of questions. And I think when it comes to looking at somewhere to live, it's really useful to be able to have that as an additional resource on top of the things you should be doing anyway, which is going to a place and looking around and and just checking out whether that is somewhere that you'd like to live. And interestingly enough, Nationwide did a survey and they actually asked people, what's one of the biggest questions they want to know. And what do you reckon it is? Because I was quite surprised. It's actually, are the neighbours friendly?
Oh, and obviously key factors influence one's inspiration to move. You like traffic and as you say, kebabs. People like that favourite takeaway, and cafes, friendly neighbours. One thing which stood out for me was foxes as well.
I don't know. Who cares about the foxes? Apparently, yes, people are concerned whether or not the place has got got foxes, and whether they people with fox phobia. I'm not sure if that's a big thing in the country, but apparently, yes, it was down there on the list of things that people wanted to know. Are there problems with foxes? Well, okay, I don't know. Didn't necessarily put me off by my house. In fact, I think, Dan, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of digging going on in my garden. I think I might actually have a badger set in my garden, because I saw a little fella strolling around the garden the other day, and then I sort of extrapolated it out. It's either the dog is digging like crazy and burying the world's most biggest bone, or we've got a badger set in the garden. So it's like, wow.
Oh, sounds like that needs further investigation.
Are you a badger expert? How can I tell it's a badger? Or if it's a dog digging? I don't know.
One thing I found interesting on the survey as well, people who know residents in the area that they may be moving to, between 60 and 65% have faith in that person.
Yeah, I think, people tend to be honest about their area that they live in, and I think they'll sort of say it warts and all. They'll say what they think in terms of what it's like. A massive distrust of estate agents when it comes to passing on that kind of information as well. Yeah, sure, it's a lovely place to live. I mean, I guess you'd expect us, the estate agents, to say that, but people seem to a quarter of people just don't trust estate agents to give them honest views. But actually, a lot of people, in fact, the majority of people, thinking yes, locals will give us local knowledge and be honest about it. So that's great, I mean, and that is good. I mean, I say to people, if if you're thinking about buying in an area, then go talk to people. Just walk up and down the street, chat to the neighbours. Go into the local post office, the local shops, to see what people are like. Yeah.
And third parties as well. Actually, that was in my next question about the distrust. But when you see houses being auctioned, is that a good way of selling houses? Can you get more money doing it that way?
So, I always say that there are bargains at auction, but not all auction properties are bargains. I mean, I think the thing at the moment is a lot of people, as you say, that start there, there's all these for sale signs and all the sell boards, and the majority of them are saying sold. And you look at the estate agents' windows, and people are getting a bit despondent, and it seems like things are just, selling before you get a chance to actually, even get to them. Well, the good thing about the auctions is that those properties are available for sale. Now, you might have a battle with somebody else in the auction room, but you can end up with a property. So, but the main thing is not to get auction fever, and remember that there are constraints and things which are different when it comes to buying at auction, that you really do need to have your ducks in a row financially. You need to have done all your due diligence. You need to be ready to go, because you will be required to pay a 10% deposit on the day and then the rest of the money within 28 days. So you can't sort of go, I'll buy it and then try and sort out a mortgage. That's not going to happen. But if you can get your ducks lined up, then that at least the auctions do offer properties for sale. And as I said, not all auction properties are bargains, but there are definitely bargains at the auctions.
And finally, surprising, we're seeing still flats, apartments popular, but with ground rent and maintenance charges. Is it best for, like, say, a small family or a single guy or an independent person to buy a townhouse where you're not affected by those fees?
I mean, I think most people's, aspirations would be to own something which is, a little bit bigger, a little bit more space for the family, a little bit more to expand it. And yet, on the other side of it, there's a lot of people, we call it generation rent, and that's not necessarily forced on them. There are a lot of people who choose to just rent because it gives a lot more flexibility, obviously. But I think most of us would aspire to owning somewhere, and and with that can come a little bit of financial stability, and obviously with interest rates being as they are at the moment, it can often be cheaper to get a mortgage than it is to rent.
And finally, moving house, it doesn't have to be a traumatic experience, does it?
No, although it generally is up there along with divorce and death as things that are going to stress you out, although obviously the death one isn't, but the death of something so you've got to try and take away as many of the hassles as you can to make it a stress-free experience. Focus on the positives, focus why you're doing it, and see yourself, visualize yourself sitting with a glass of wine in your new front living room, staring out across your garden, with the kids with a bit more space, or whatever it might be, if that's what you're looking for.
So it will all be worth it in the end.
In a nutshell, yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Martin Roberts, today talking about the how to find help relocating, and we even touching on the ins and outs of buying property in the UK. Thank you very much. Very reassuring speaking with you today on the Danny Sun syndicated shows.
Nice to talk to you, Danny.
Have a great day.